I am a proud parent of 5 children, and I owe teachers a debt of gratitude. 3, soon to be 4 of my children are in mainstream or higher education, and for this reason, I personally feel strongly as well as professionally about the subject that I'm going to discuss with you this evening. I'm also particularly pleased to be talking to you in the middle of Noise Action Week, if you weren't aware, and in the context of the release today of the Priority Schools Build Programme by the government. My address could be divided into 2 parts. Firstly, I'd like to talk to you about how we can support teachers. Secondly, I'd like to talk to you about how the ideal classroom can benefit our children. During the working week, our children, during their waking hours, spend approximately 50% of their time in the care of teachers. Outside of the role of the family, I feel that this role must be extremely important. A humble, dedicated, purely motivated teacher is going to be very important in the lives of our children. And I'm pleased to say that I'm not alone in that feeling. In 2011, Professor Robert Winston gave a very inspirational interview with the National Parent Teachers Association. I'd like to share with you something that he said in the course of that interview. Well, I think being a teacher is the finest profession there is, and I think that we greatly undervalue teachers. There is nothing more important than teaching, because teaching is what shapes the next generation. Research from the United Kingdom to New Zealand tells us that despite the advance in ICT in classrooms and group working, that teachers still spend at least half of their time vocally communicating or verbally teaching our children. This has been verified by our own Professor Bridget Shield from London South Bank University, who conducted her research amongst a wide age range in a wide variety of subjects in a secondary school. I've been interviewing teachers up and down the United Kingdom and have been mightily impressed, and some of those fantastic teachers are in the audience tonight. But I'd like to introduce you to one particularly inspirational teacher, Miss Clark, at the wonderful Upwood Primary School. She has the remarkable ability to infuse her lessons with happiness and joy while instilling in her pupils a real willingness to learn and to achieve academically.
I would say that the vast majority of my teaching is done through vocal communication. Even when I'm using things like PowerPoint, Smart Notebook, other resources, I'm still talking all the time. And that's something actually I need to develop as a teacher, is actually knowing when periods of silence are actually just as important as periods of talking.
I'd like to pause for a moment to talk to parents, if I may. You start and continue the process of teaching in the home. You talk to your children verbally, and when you communicate, you don't just fill them with facts. There's far more going on. The high-frequency affirmations, the volume control of the tone of your voice, sometimes conveys far more than what you're actually saying. It's very difficult for me to put into words. So just for a brief moment, I'm going to invite you into my front room.
Number, what's this one? 4. Number 6.
However, the subtleties and nuances of speech, tone and expression sometimes are challenging in a class of 30 where the acoustics are poor. Yet this is a really vital tool for teachers to use, particularly in primary schools. If a teacher has to speak above high background noise levels, they will come across as dictatorial. They will lose the ability to convey encouragement. If they're in secondary school, they may fail to gain the respect of their students. This is also bad for their voice and bad for their health. Back to Miss Clark.
Having sort of good audio within the classroom is really integral. I actually think I have noticed over the 12 years that I've been teaching that there are now chinks in my voice, cracks in my voice that perhaps weren't there before, and it's probably through overuse in perhaps situations whereby the audio hasn't been that good. I've had to throw my voice more than probably I would have done if the audio in the room had been sort of significantly better.
So, what is the solution to all of this? Outdoors in nature provides us with the ideal classroom. Fantastic air quality, really good natural daylight, and excellent acoustics. But if you've been in the United Kingdom for the last couple of months, you'll know that this isn't always practical. I'd like to share with you 5 key design considerations to build the ideal classroom. Shoo away the birds. Firstly, as much natural, controlled daylighting as possible is really important. Next, ergonomics. And that includes the flooring that primary school children are often asked to sit on during points in the day. Some of you may be aware of a survey that's been done in the United Kingdom across classrooms measuring the temperature. And as they predicted, classroom temperature is too high, which also takes us nicely on to air quality. Now there's one missing, and I hope by now that you've got it, because it's the one that I want you to take away with you tonight. Any one of these fundamental design considerations are missing from the build, and you're unlikely to have a good quality classroom for modern teaching. So let's begin to build our class. First of all, our classroom requires a foundation and a base. We add hard furniture, which is good at breaking up sound waves and can scatter it to be absorbed. Soft furnishings will absorb it. When we start to build the walls, we introduce a reverberant problem into the classroom. But the addition of extra furniture, plants even, can help the situation. And on the right-hand side, you'll notice some pictures, which are cost-effective acoustic wall panels that can be screen printed with whatever the teaching curriculum demands and whatever the aesthetics of the classroom requires. However, as soon as you add the roof and the soffit, you are starting to create the echoey cave effect that we've already heard about. And that's a problem. That's a problem, especially if you're in the inner city, like London, next to a major road, or under a flight path where you have to seal the school and you require some mechanical ventilation. This will easily hum away at 35 decibels in the background before the classroom is even occupied. So you need an acoustic ceiling to deal with it. With the addition of some good uplighting, what you are actually doing is returning the acoustic sky back to the classroom. Turn the class the other way round, and you'll need to put some acoustic absorption on the back wall, because you don't want the pupils on the back row to hear what the teacher has said, and then a fraction of a second later, hear it again as it reflects, rebounds off of that hard surface. That, as we've heard, takes a lot of effort, a lot of filtering by the brain, a lot of energy. And we find that pupils in that situation quite often feel drowsy and start falling asleep in the afternoon. If you don't want to put the acoustic wall panel there, then we recommend this is a good place for your books, which are very good absorbers. Why not put something on the desk to stop the scratching and rattling of pencil cases, which adds to the background noise levels? Casters or hush-ups on the seats themselves, particularly if it's a 2-story school. Now, I'm afraid at this point I'm going to have to introduce you to the supervillain of sound. He is 125 hertz. You may have had the unfortunate experience, if you have noisy neighbours, of hearing him. He sounds something like this. 125 hertz is what you hear on your side of the wall, and is commonly known as a bass frequency. Unfortunately, classrooms with unwanted noise have this supervillain within the sound that needs to be alleviated. It's very difficult to do this. 125 hertz will bounce around the room and interfere with the student's ability to actually hear what is coming next. This particular term, this delay, is also especially important, and it has a very detrimental effect to the 44,000 children with hearing impairments in mainstream education in the United Kingdom and Ireland. It's especially detrimental to children with cochlear implants. The British Association for the Teachers of the Deaf have a recommendation to deal with 125 hertz, and as you heard, when it was applied to the Swain Park School, the Essex study, there was enormous benefit to everybody, not just the hearing impaired pupils, but all pupils. So, what is the solution? Back to our acoustic sky. A carefully, strategically positioned bass absorbing pad on the back of the ceiling will soak up the unwanted frequencies that are interfering with speech clarity. The result will be a well-balanced, comfortable listening environment for all. I'd now like to introduce you to another inspirational teacher. I know that his class are missing him at the moment. He's so good, he was promoted to be a head teacher, and his name is Mr. Frost.
I think it's becoming more and more essential these days. Lots of inclusive practices. We're trying to reach out to make sure that every single child can achieve their full potential, and you're a lot more aware of where the children sit in your class, what you're doing, making sure that you're providing every single opportunity for the children. And I think your voice as a teacher is absolutely crucial. You often hear a child put their hand up and say, sorry, I didn't hear that, can you repeat that? And it's not just down to the teacher projecting their voice, but often the acoustics within that classroom. And I think you need to address all those issues in the school, because you've got to make sure that you are reaching out to every single child inclusively.
The Essex team, during the process of this study and looking at other research, was able to confirm and verify two really important factors. Higher noise levels does equal lower academic performance in schools and increased stress in both teachers and children. It doesn't have to be this way, and the United Kingdom is actually full of some really good examples. We go out of our way to show these good, well thought through schools in case study visits, where we always start with having lunch with the children as a reminder of how noisy a school can be, and also just who we're building the school for. And we invite you to participate in those case studies and contact us if you wish to do so. As well as being based in the United Kingdom, I'm part of the international Edunet team based in Hulinge in Sweden. One of our remits is to gather, encourage and support research and best practice into acoustics in classrooms from around the world, to make that information freely available on an online library called acousticbulletin.com. And I commend that to you if you wish to do further research. I would also like to introduce you to a friendly, highly intelligent bunch of people who may be within the sound of my very voice, called acousticians. If only acousticians had been involved early in the design process, I wouldn't be involved in so many more costly remedial works in classrooms across the United Kingdom. Now, in the words of one of the newest board members of the Association of Noise Consultants, who put it far more succinctly even than I can, I would like to quote him. When you introduce an acoustician into the design process late, you add cost. When you introduce them early, you add value. I thought that was quite profound, and I think it's very true. I put it to you, what is the point of constructing a really good school if the inside learning environment is hindered by poor acoustics, if the pupils themselves can't properly hear what is being taught and the teachers are stressed? In conclusion, if you are a school considering refurbishment, if you are a local authority, an architect or a main contractor, we will come to you. We have a Royal Institute of British Architects approved seminar that talks about these things in much greater depth than I have lightly touched on this evening. We will even bring one of those aforementioned acousticians with us to support you, assist you, and answer your acoustic questions. I am a proud father of 5 children, and I do owe teachers a debt of gratitude. Help us to help our teachers to help all our children. And thank you for taking the time to listen.